I'm very excited to introduce our speakers today. They're experts in the field of child guidance. First up, Petey Jolly. She is a master teacher at the Life School here on campus, the Priscilla Pond Flan
Child and Family Laboratory.
Child and Family Laboratory, that's a mouthful. And she's been teaching for many years. In fact, she taught my children when they were young. So I've known her a very long time. She's also an adjunct professor at ACC at Austin Community College. So she's going to be talking. And also Allison Bentley is a graduate student here at the University of Texas in HDFS, which is Human HD and Development Family Studies. And she's been working with Ms. Jolly for 3.5 years at the lab school. So she comes with a lot of experience. And so they're going to share their experience with you. So I'm so glad they're here. So thank you both. I'm not sure who's starting first.
So I guess in the beginning, I sort of wanted to just throw a little bit of information at you in terms of definitions. What we're going to talk about today, you might think in terms of more like discipline. You might have other words, but we're going to use the word guidance. And the class we teach here at UT, and the same class I teach at ACC, is all about using positive guidance techniques. So if you're thinking discipline, just replace it with that, and that's the terms that we're going to use today. There's a lot of information here. In a way, we'll go over it all thoroughly. The most important thing is that you get your questions answered. So we just put together what we thought were the most important guidance techniques. This is, what I put in a 16-week semester. So it's very condensed and abridged. So as we come on a topic that you think relates to your question, go ahead and ask your question. I don't want to wait to the end and run out of time for questions, because it's going to be most valuable to you. And I will be repeating your question. That's because Mike is only filming me and not the rest of you. So you'll ask a question, I'll repeat it, and then I'll answer it. So we are going to use this as sort of a guideline to go down. And in terms of discipline and positive guidance, there are different styles. And the style that we're after, we hope to give you some techniques, is the authoritative style. It has two main components, has lots of things, but the main thing I want you to know is it's a balance, a really delicate balance between demandingness, which is having appropriate expectations, supervising children. We're not permissive. It's not that anything goes. Sometimes people are, it's positive guidance, they just let them do anything. That's not the case. You want to have rules and limits and boundaries, but it has to be balanced by also being really responsive to the children. So flexible, warm, and supportive. If we were just about the rules, we'd be another style we want to avoid, called authoritarian. It's really going from that balance of teaching children the behaviors we want and being very supportive and encouraging while we do that. It's the same style that Allison and I use to train adults. In fact, this morning, we had our children and our undergraduates. At the end of the morning, we go over things with the undergraduates, they leave, and the two of us talk. And the same things we were doing with the children this morning are the same things we were doing with the undergraduates. So it's really about how do you help people, not just children, learn and change new behaviors. So there's lots of ways you do that. One of the techniques we use is a way to give feedback. So probably my guess is your experience giving feedback to people, especially children, is going to be what we call praise. So good job, good boy, all those sorts of things. Is that something that's sort of, as I say, the tape that's playing in your head? Is that something that you've had a lot of experience so far doing with the children at the elementary? And we're going to offer you a provocation. In Reggio, one of the philosophies in early childhood, we say, turn things around on you and offer you a provocation, which is that the research supports giving feedback in a different way. That giving praise is what we're all trained to do, but it's actually not the most effective way of giving people feedback. So you see there on the third bullet down, it says praise or encouragement. And there's too much to read here, but there's a little myth here that continually telling children that they're smart, that they're good, will build their self-esteem. And actually we found that that's not true. Just hearing that doesn't make it so. I'm on the second page now. We actually use something called encouragement. Some of the literature is called growth mindset praise, but if you flip back to page 9, there's a lot more information on this technique. It's lots more than we can go over today, so what we're going to do is focus on the chart on page 11, or the little table chart right there. That's the sort of simplest way I know to give you the basic information. And there's more here in an outline form I'll let you look at later, but for brevity, for time's sake, we're going to look at this first. So encouragement, the one I want you to try and practice using, is on the left, to replace praise, which is on the right. So if you use encouraging statements, it's not the same, can you find it on page 10?
Oh, it's actually number 10, page 10.
Oh, we're a page off, okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, I had
help you on
to
that.
move things around.
So encouragement is much more specific. That's why we're using with children. It tells them exactly what they did that we want them to repeat versus really general. So you can see on the right when we say to children, good job, it doesn't really give them any information about what was good. So if we want them to continue doing something, being specific is actually more productive. Thank you, you helped pick up all the blocks and put them away. Encouragement's really descriptive and not judgmental. Whereas even if we're praising children, we're still judging their behavior. So it's still about us telling them instead of them feeling it for themselves. So instead of being external, we want them to learn to judge their own actions. Encouragement's about feelings and motivation, noticing how it feels for them. So looking at their body language. It's really satisfying when you finish your painting you've worked hard on. Versus us saying, you know, that's the best work, or I'll hang up the best paintings, or some of that kind of stuff. Encouragement's really thoughtful and individual. It's really important in authoritative guidance that we build relationships with children. And if you're very thoughtful and you individualize your interactions, you build a relationship with them. And not just in terms of this class, but sort of in general, learning happens in relationships. And if you have a good relationship with the person who's teaching you, the learning comes quicker. So noticing that was the first time you did something versus good work, which you could say to any child anytime. And I'll tell you, I used to do it, the praise thing, all the time. Children taught me to stop doing it. So, children who were painting the easel, they would call me over. One day I was busy, and I would say, oh, that's beautiful. Oh, good job. And that really fake teacher voice, I don't use that anymore. Because it doesn't build relationships. And so I'm busy, a child's calling me over, and then I say, just a minute. She goes, oh, don't call her. She says beautiful to everyone. So children are really hip to this. They might not actually tell you that, but if you're having trouble building relationship with a child, sometimes it's because we're in that sort of fake teacher zone instead of just relating them as a person. If you find yourself in this habit, I say, would you say this to your roommate? Like say you've been on your roommate to do the dishes. Your roommate finally does the dishes. Would you say, oh, good job? Or would you say, thanks for doing the dishes? So I try to use this same form of communication with children. It helps them feel more honored and valued, and it helps to build the relationship. If you have the relationship, then it's easier to work together and to get them to cooperate when they're bored, distracted. Encouragement, again, it focuses on their process, their experience, their effort. Children aren't going to get things right the first time. With encouragement, you can use this all along, whereas with praise, you have to wait for that end product to praise it. And we're in our teaching all about the effort, the process of getting somewhere instead of the end product. It's about noticing the growth of each person. So right now from a boss one time, I get this lovely letter. It was great, I hung it up, I was all, and then I went in every other teacher's office, she got exactly the same letter. I crumpled it up and I put it in recycling because it wasn't about me as an individual. It actually had nothing to do with me. She wrote one letter, she gave it to everybody. And children are pretty good about figuring out if we're globalizing versus being about them. And then again, it's a self-evaluation. So we want kids to be to the place where eventually they know when they're doing a good job or not. Again, children taught me this lesson. A child did an artwork, and so I say some dumb thing like, oh, what a good job. I say, ha ha, tricked you, it's a scribble. So it's really about trusting yourself instead of giving all of your power to somebody else. You know, at the lab school, people slip up and use praise. It's all positive. That judge